It was an amazing yet deadly set of circumstances last week. The power grid in the state of Texas nearly collapsed and did, in fact, shut down enough so that millions of Texans were without power at a time when they most needed it, as the coldest temperatures in decades pushed into the state, literally freezing people out of their homes. Ed Hurst teaches energy economics and is an energy fellow at the University of Houston, has written an awful lot about this Texas system that is used to buy and distribute power. We saw in the last segment about ERCOT's role in the collapse of power in Robert Arnold's piece. Ed Hurst is joining me now. You've advocated for change for quite some time. Ed, talk to me about how this system is now. It depends upon power generation, the companies competing really to get the lowest rate so that ERCOT can buy from them. How has that system gone awry, and what's the better alternative?
Well, the system didn't go awry as I think the architect of it. This is exactly how he planned it. You know, in the late 90s, the governors and the legislature didn't realize they were actually creating an old-style Soviet purchasing bureau where there was just one buyer, and in the ERCOT market, that's what happens. ERCOT buys electricity from the generators on a day-ahead basis. You know, you promise what you're going to bring tomorrow, or real time. And so what are you turning today? The generators only get paid on an electricity-only basis. So if they're idle, which some generators are for 10 months out of the year because they're just not needed. They're geared up to go in August and September when things are hot. And the other 10 months they're off fishing. So, you know, think of it like the Astros, for example. You know, if the Astros were paid in an electricity-only fashion, this would be just like, well, the 10 guys on the field getting a paycheck for the game. And then those guys on the bench, they wouldn't get paid anything. And so they don't get paid to be ready. You know, they probably... you know, having Coca-Cola and drinking hot dog, eating a hot dog, but they're not ready. And so every year we've had this problem with ERCOT, and the generators in ERCOT.
So do you think the answer is to go ahead and bring some form of regulation back into the system so that all of the companies have an incentive to be up and running?
Well, they need to be up and running, and I don't want to call it, you know, bring in regulation, not bring in regulation. This market is regulated, and you know, it's kind of like saying, well, I'm going to deregulate the speed limit on I-10, and look, I've deregulated I-10. That's nonsense. You know, you haven't built a wider I-10. You haven't changed the access. You haven't changed the exits. And you haven't changed how I-10 responds when the weather changes. And so that's what ERCOT has. This, you know, we need to find a way to make sure that the generators are compensated for sitting on the bench during, you know, long stretches of time during the year. That has been the fundamental problem that we identified years ago, and that, you know, folks in Austin just kind of blithely ignored, because they know that incumbents don't get reelected if the price of electricity goes up at the meter or the price of gasoline goes up at the pump. You know, the real example is in California in the 2000-2001 crisis, where electricity prices spiked. There were bankruptcies everywhere, blackouts. You know, Governor Gray Davis was voted out in a recall election, and Governor Schwarzenegger took office.
So now this process comes along. If we do something that's going to cost more, you think consumers would be ready to do that and take a little bit higher rate so that they know that they could be ready in times like this past week? They'd be ready to have heat?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty convincing example of the, you know, you can pay me now or pay me later. The problem with this one is, this is tragedy. I mean, this has cost people lives. Homes, billions of dollars in commerce. This is just ridiculous.
Once upon a time, over the last week or so, the governor was on one of the TV stations kind of insinuating that solar not being able to work, that the turbines went down, and so that was part of the problem. From what I've heard, there were across the energy sector, a lot of things went down. Maybe energy, the renewable energies, not as much so as the oil and gas part.
Oh, Cambrell, the grid collapsed Monday night. I don't know what the governor was expecting in terms of getting solar power at that point. ERCOT certainly doesn't expect solar power around midnight or 1 in the morning. He's just spinning stuff. They've ignored a problem for a long time, and they're just reaching out, lashing out. The governance of ERCOT, nobody can hold anyone in ERCOT accountable. ERCOT is just the traffic cop for electrons across the grid. And we have a number of providers of electrons. 40% of the ERCOT generation fleet went offline. Yeah, gas plants, coal plants, as we saw in this previous piece. The nuclear plants tripped off because the rest of the grid became unstable. It's just like plugging in too many strings on your Christmas tree and blowing circuits. That's why they tripped off. The wind units, they froze. Well, yeah, they may not be weatherized either, but they weren't expected to provide more than 10% of the power to the grid at any one point during a winter's night. And so, the governor's statement is just specious, unjustified, and not tied to the substance of anything.
Well, I look forward to having you back on. I know that we've talked about the fact we have some great opinion pieces. I'm going to make sure the viewers get links to your pieces, which are really insightful and gives everybody a baseline of information about what's going on. Ed Hurst, thank you so much. This website, your website's fascinating, and I hope that people can learn from it like I have. Thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.